Hi, I'm Sherry Gustafson. I'm a member of the SATF at the MSPCA Nevins Farm, and this is a presentation on ferret adoption counseling. All photos in this presentation are courtesy of the MSPCA Nevins Farm and from South Shore Ferret Rescue. When people come into the shelter to look for a ferret, I do like to go over the pros and cons with them. Ferrets are very playful and entertaining. They're really kind of like having a 2-year-old for their whole lifespan, and they get into everything, but they can be a whole lot of fun. Ferrets can be litter box trained quite easily. They do like to back into the litter box, and we'll go into that a little bit more later. But really, litter box training with ferret kind of comes hand in hand. They do really enjoy being around people. They're very social, very interactive. So if they're looking for an animal that, is going to keep them on their toes, a ferret might be a good fit. They do have quite a long lifespan. The average is about 4 to 7 years. However, with proper care, it's not unheard of for a ferret to live 10 plus years now. One of the cons, you really need to be 100% ferret proof. So any room that the ferret is going to be let out in, you do want to make sure everything is ferret proof. What that means is ferrets can get into any location where they can fit their head into. So that's really their limiting factor on what they can get into. If a ferret can get its head in, it's going to get in there. So anything that's over about 1.5 inches, any gap in the wall, you do want to make sure it's filled in. Even after being litter box trained, they do sometimes tend to have accidents now and then. Sometimes this is from GI upset. They do have a very short GI tract. But sometimes this is just because they don't really like the litter box or the location. So do pay close attention to that. Ferret litter is not cat litter. What you want to use in your litter box is shredded paper, paper products, a specialized ferret litter. There are lots of them on the market. But do not use clay clumping cat litters. It's very dangerous for your ferret. And also make sure the litter box is one that the ferret will go into. Like I said, ferrets like to back into the litter boxes, so ones with a low front are really the most ideal. Corner litter boxes also tend to work quite well. If not socialized, they can be a little bit nippy. Especially young ferrets, they really like to test things out with their mouth. They like to see what it tastes like, if they can eat it. So you do want to make sure you do training and positive reinforcement with your ferret. The earlier you start, the easier it's going to be. Older ferrets can be trained, but again, it just takes a lot of patience. Ferrets truly are predators. So if you have other small animals, you do want to be careful if you have a ferret. I would never recommend housing a ferret in the same room as a rabbit or a guinea pig or a hamster or a gerbil. It's just too much stress on the other small animal. Ferrets do have quite a prey drive at times, so you do want to make sure that their cages are secure, and if you do have other small animals, that they are kept in separate rooms in secure cages. Ferrets can, however, enjoy playing with cats and dogs on occasion, but you do want to be there to monitor. Ferrets do require a lot of time out of their cage. Really, 3 to 4 hours is the minimum time that you want your ferret out of your cage, running around exercising to kind of keep them healthy. Sadly, ferrets are also prone to quite a few health issues, and they do require vaccination, so regular vet care is truly essential. One thing we did already touch briefly on are some of the common health concerns for ferrets, and I just wanted to go over those again really quickly. Ferrets, like I said, are prone to GI blockages at really any age. They're really inquisitive, and that kind of sticks with them through most of their life. So do be careful of any small little things on the floor that the ferret can ingest, or raw veggies, anything that can get blocked in that GI tract. And symptoms of the GI blockage would be any type of pain response that you see in the ferret, not wanting to eat, being lethargic, shaking of the head. A lot of times you can actually feel a GI blockage in the ferret if you palpate around the stomach. Ferrets are prone to URI, or upper respiratory illness, and influenza, so if you do have a cold, do be careful when handling your ferret. Any type of virus that you have can potentially be passed on to a ferret in circumstances. If your ferret is showing symptoms of URI, nasal discharge, sneezing, coughing, you do want to bring them to a vet and get them started on supportive care. Adrenal disease is also quite common in ferrets. It's probably the most common ferret disease, and one of the biggest symptoms of adrenal disease, or one of the symptoms you might see first, is hair loss around the tail. A lot of times this hair or fur loss works its way up the body. So if you do see that, it's important to get your ferret into the vet right away. The nice thing about adrenal disease is while it's very common, there are lots of treatment options out there for owners. So do see an experienced vet and get the ferret started on a plan, whether that be surgery or drug therapy. Insulinoma, or growth on the pancreas, is also quite common, especially in older ferrets, probably around age 4 and up. So it can result in a really low blood sugar. So it is important to get your ferret started on the proper diet. Sometimes it's drug regimen, sometimes it's surgery. So again, seeing an experienced vet right away if you suspect insulinoma is really essential. Some symptoms of insulinoma would be loss of movement in the hindquarters, not wanting to eat, losing muscle mass, being lethargic. Those would all be signs that you want to bring your ferret in to see a vet. ECE is another illness that you can see, especially we saw this a lot actually with ferrets coming into the shelter. It's a very contagious illness, and ferrets can get it when a new ferret is introduced to an existing population. It's basically presents with bright green stools or sometimes yellow stools with almost a grainy type of birdseed texture. If ECE is suspected, a lot of times what a vet will do is put the ferrets on supportive care that could consist of sub-Q fluids, duck soup, which you see pictured in the picture above, which is basically just a high-protein slurry with some added vitamins to really give supportive care to the ferrets. Sometimes the vet might even recommend the ferret being on antibiotics for cases of ECE. Cage requirements. Of course, when talking about cage, bigger is always, always better. For ferrets, they really do need quite a bit of floor space. Again, they should be out of their cage about 3 to 4 hours a day, but their cage, they're going to spend most of the day in it, so you do want to give them multiple levels. You do want to give them hammocks, places that they can hide, places that they can kind of dig at, lots of toys. Those are all going to make your ferret happy. In the picture there, you see the cages that they keep ferrets at South Shore Ferret Rescue, and they're really awesome. They're 3-story Ferret Nation cages, which give the ferrets lots of room to run around, and they can be opened up for playtime. Another thing that you want to make sure is that your cage has a solid floor. Ferrets have really tiny claws and really delicate paw pads, so they shouldn't be housed on wire flooring. Avoid plastic and wood in the cage since they can harbor odors, and they're also very easy to chew, and if a ferret breaks off a piece, they can again get that GI blockage. Ring pens are a great option for owners, especially if they want to give their ferrets some free time, but they aren't able to ferret-proof a whole room. So they can be a lot of use in the home. Not only are they used to get the ferret free times, but they can also be opened up and used to block off areas that you don't want the ferret to enter, such as areas underneath the stove. You can put the ring pen, open it up, and put it in front. That's one of the things that I commonly do in my house to keep my smalls from getting underneath that area. And they're quite affordable. You can also get covers to go on the top so the ferret can't climb out of them. Ferret nutrition. Again, remember, ferret's GI tract is very short. They are strict carnivores and they need a diet high in protein. Due to that short digestive tract, pelleted food consisting of highly digestible meat protein is best. Do avoid foods that list grains or corns high in their ingredients since they can contribute to stones in the kidneys and the bladder. Also avoid any raw veggies and fruits. Ferrets just have a hard time breaking down vegetable matter, and these items can cause blockages and get stuck in their GI tract. Foods high in sugar can cause diarrhea, and in cases where ferrets have insulinoma, again, it can kind of wreak havoc on their system that way. So do avoid any high sugary snacks. Some common adopter questions. The first one, are ferret balls okay? Basically, the answer is no. They're bad for backs. They can cause foot injuries from claws getting stuck in the slats. Stick with the ring pens for exercise if needed if you can't really have your ferret free range. Ferret harnesses also work well, but do pay careful attention to the environment. Make sure where you are walking your ferret on a harness is safe for your ferret. My ferret bites. What do I do? Ferrets are very inquisitive, and a lot of times they do test things out with their mouth. So try positive reinforcement training. I love clicker training. I'm a big advocate of it. Ferrets are really intelligent, and they actually respond to clicker training quite well. Basically, when clicker training a ferret, use small, tiny, bite-sized pieces of chicken. That's really the best way to train your ferret. teach them what's appropriate and what isn't. So if your ferret is biting, basically you want to put the ferret away, wait for them to calm down. When they come back out, when they are calm, you click and treat. Capture those calm, relaxed moments with your ferret. And soon they will catch on that when they're calm and relaxed, they get more time out to play. My ferret isn't using the litter box all the time. Again, make sure the box is in a corner. Ferrets like to back into their box. Make sure that they have multiple boxes in the cage or room. That's really essential. And make sure you change that box. Many times a ferret's litter box has to be changed multiple times throughout the day. If the litter box gets too dirty, a lot of times the ferrets will start going next to it. So it's important to keep a clean litter box. Just some interesting ferret facts. Ferrets sleep for up to 16 hours a day, but when they're up, they're truly balls of energy. So they're great for the owner that wants an interactive, fun pet, but may be gone for a lot of times during the day. But when they're home, they can really devote a lot of time to their animal. So ferrets might be a good fit for that type of owner. Ferrets by law in Massachusetts need to be spayed and neutered and have their initial rabies and distemper vaccinations. This is true in a lot of states. In the Word document, I do have a link for you that really lists the laws state by state, so do take a moment to check that out if you haven't already. A group of ferrets is called a business, a spayed female is called a sprite, and a neutered male is called a gib. Those are just some interesting names, ways that people describe ferrets. Ferrets typically do not claw or chew on furniture. They're also fairly quiet, though occasionally you can get a talker. And what I mean by a talker, ferrets, especially when they're roughhousing with other ferrets, a lot of times they can start vocalizing. They do have quite a good vocal range, to be honest. They make a ton of different sounds, everything from squeaks to grunts to almost barking noises. So each ferret is an individual, so really as you get to know your ferret, you'll get to know the individual sounds that they do make. Want to learn more? Some further sites that I love that contain a lot of ferret info are Ferret Universe, the www.ferret.org site, which is part of the American Ferret Association's website, the ASPCA's website that has some great pet care, small animal pet care pages on it, and the South Shore Ferret Care Rescue site is another great organization, and they actually do also provide training for anyone who wants to come down to their facility. You can spend a day training with the ferrets and learn all kinds of great information about them. So it's a great place to check out. A great book that just kind of goes over the medical side of ferret care is the Exotic Animal Medicine for Veterinary Technician book by Bonnie Ballard and Ryan Cheek. It's really a wonderful book to have, and it's even available on the Kindle. So it's something that, if you haven't taken a peek at it already, it might be a great one to kind of check out. And that really concludes the presentation on ferret adoption counseling. If you have any questions, feel free to email me them or, mention them to me when we do have our information times. So again, I'm always here if you have any questions about anything that you've learned about. Take care.